no good at writing love songs. These chords are overplayed, but there's this feeling deep in my chest that wants you to never go away.
Hey everyone! So, welcome to a video where I just kind of hand my platform over for a second. You will only see me at the beginning and the end. My editing efforts are pervasive throughout, however, leveling all the audio, color correcting, and turning an hour and a half of interview footage into a concise, hopefully engaging 15 minutes was a challenge. Sorry if you came for me, but I think it's cool to model putting your own voice aside in order to raise the voices of others. Thus, I give you 7 non-binary humans between the ages of 30 and 70. Why? There's a stigma out there which suggests that all enby folks are young, in their tweens or early 20s. I'd like to challenge this idea. Non-binary people, in fact, come in all ages. They've been around forever. Some of the diversity in the following group includes having AMAB as well as AFAB people, individuals from around the world, those who have physically transitioned, those who haven't, who are intersex, disabled, people of color, influencers, non-influencers, students, professionals, parents, and more. Full bios in the description below, because just like any other category, those who make up the non-binary community are rich and varied. Also, I'ma geek out for a second. Kate Bornstein's in this. How did that happen? I don't know. I'm not worthy. Anyway, enough from me. Please enjoy our lovely guests. Be nice to them or I'll find you. Just kidding. But be nice to them.
Hello, my name is Jess.
Hi, my name is Vesper.
Hello, my name is Pigeon.
My name is Jeffrey Marsh.
Hoffman-fox.
Kate Bornstein.
My name is Renee Yoxon.
I am an American currently working and living abroad in Japan. I've been an English teacher in Japan for 8 years.
I'm from Montreal, Quebec in Canada, but currently I'm in Limerick, Ireland, getting my master's in songwriting.
I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I work as a gender therapist.
I'm an actor, author. I call myself an artist in service to activism.
My hobbies include photography, journaling, blogging, YouTube, food, and cats. Nice to meet you.
I am genderqueer, gender fluid, non-binary.
My gender identity is non-binary.
Non-binary femme.
I'm non-binary and I'm intersex. I use they, them pronouns.
And my pronouns are they, them.
They, them. They, them, theirs.
My pronouns? At this point, I really don't give a damn. I'm interested to see what pronoun you would use to describe me. That would tell me a lot about you.
And I'm 32 years old.
I'm 30 years old.
I'm 33.
39 years old.
44 years old.
And I'm 70 years old.
And I had the great good fortune to be born on 7/7/77.
I formally realized that I was non-binary approximately 3 years ago.
I realized that I was non-binary pretty much my whole life, but I just didn't have language for it until I was in my mid-20s.
However, I have felt agender since I was a young child. I just didn't have the words for it.
I've been wearing makeup, having facial hair, expressing my gender in lots of different ways for years and years and years and years. And about 7 years ago, I started posting on Vine. I became famous, and younger people started writing into me saying, "Oh, what are your pronouns? How do you identify? Are you genderqueer?" And I remember really feeling seen, heard, and respected.
I realized I was non-binary pretty early on, I guess, in my teens. Back then, we didn't really have the word non-binary. At the time, the word that was popular was genderqueer.
I stumbled across the word genderqueer in 2012 on the internet. At that time, I was 26 and immediately adopted it for myself because it felt like the final piece to a puzzle that I've been looking for my entire life in regards to my gender. It was a couple of years after that I saw people increasingly using the term non-binary, and eventually I started identifying as non-binary more than genderqueer.
Even back then, I had very typical dysphoric days. I would put on clothes that I was wearing the day before, like a dress, and then I would look in the mirror and it would be like, looking at somebody that wasn't myself. And it was really, really distressing.
And I just started to notice the different things about myself that were starting to feel more and more uncomfortable when it came to be seen as a woman.
All my life, I knew I wasn't a boy. I knew I wasn't a man. And so all my life, I had to pretend to be a boy or a man. It was very conscious pretending. Finally, I decided to go through with what we called a sex change. And I went through it, woke up off of the surgeon's table, and my golly, I was a woman. And I was so happy with that.
It took a good couple years even just to get to the point where I knew that I was non-binary. And then it was only within the last year that I finally had chest reduction surgery and I started using they, them pronouns. So 4 years, and this started when I was 40 years old.
And then for the next 4 or 5 months, I was going, okay, how do you be a woman? And I pretended to be a woman. Realized I had no idea about being a woman any more than I'd had an idea about being a man.
I don't know why there's this idea that all non-binary people are super young and, in their tweens to the early 20s. But I think that has something to do with it being a newer term.
I think that maybe it's related to language.
There has not been a language and discourse around gender diversity until quite recently, at least on this level. Language is finally catching up to gender actualities.
Non-binary is like a very, very modern term, and it's only really gained traction in the last 5 years.
Young people are always on the cutting edge of things.
Now that there are more understanding and more language for the vast different ways to be human, younger people who are figuring out their identity have much broader options in order to define themselves with. And clearly, this is resonating with a younger population as they come out.
I think the reason it's seen as a young, trendy thing is that kids were smart enough to name it, to call it out, to get on social media and say, this is the definition, this is what it means. Other people who are older never talked in those ways.
Like I said, non-binary wasn't a term that I had growing up, so I can see how older people would be attached to the identity labels that they chose when they were teens, so maybe they identify as genderqueer or gender non-conforming, butch, femme, like any of these words that were more popular in the 80s and the 90s.
So even though we've existed this whole time, I think the vocabulary to finally talk about it is here, and the youngest generation that's around and our activists are the ones that are using the language wholeheartedly and enthusiastically.
Also, don't forget that things don't just appear out of thin air. This young generation of people that you see openly identifying as non-binary, people before them came and helped lay down that groundwork so that we could be where we are now. Non-binary people, we have existed always.
You only have to look at indigenous cultures throughout the world and cultures today to see that.
I'm 40 years old and I'm non-binary. I've always been this way.
I'm proof that this is something that has existed. It's not something new that was just created, and it certainly isn't something that only young people experience.
I have always not been a man and not been a woman.
When I was a kid, I knew that I was non-binary, except that I didn't know it because it wasn't an option in 1974 to be able to tell your parents that you're actually not a girl, that you're non-binary.
I think with the cultural shift that's happening right now, a lot of trans and non-binary and intersex kids are able to talk about that to their parents. They're able to put that down, and their parents are able to pick up what they're putting down because there's more general awareness about being non-binary in the media.
And just because we're getting attention now, more attention now, doesn't mean that we've just arrived on the scene.
The biggest challenge we all face as non-binary persons, young, old, whatever age, is the inability of today's language to communicate paradox. Because that's what non-binary is. We're saying what? We're not men and we're not women. And to the majority of people, there's nothing left if you say you're neither of those.
I think one of the challenges is really my own challenge, because I have realized later in life that I'm non-binary. I have also had several decades of living a certain way. And therefore, in terms of correcting people when they use the wrong pronoun or they use gendered terminology with me, I am still really struggling.
I find it incredibly emotionally exhausting to self-advocate. I'm just not good at it. I can advocate for other people. It's harder to do for myself. If I don't constantly and consistently explain my gender identity on an ongoing daily basis, I am not recognized by the general public for being myself.
And I don't know, I think maybe a part of it is because I'm older, because A, I've been living a certain way for such a long time, and B, maybe a little bit I wonder if I'm going to be taken seriously, because I don't think the general public understands non-binary in the first place, and if they do, they probably do have an assumption that it's really just something that younger people experience.
I get misgendered every day, and I've had to reconcile with the fact that I will continue to be misgendered for the rest of my life, probably. The majority of the population is unfortunately underinformed regarding gender diversity. The knowledge and understanding that we need in order to be seen and respected is still in process.
By saying non-binary, we're describing ourselves by what we're not. We're not the binary. And people don't want to hear what we're not. They want to hear what you are. I'm not going to say what I am, except in terms of what I am not, because all my life, whenever I have said, this is what I am, it wasn't long before I wasn't that any longer. Defining ourselves using the language of negation, the language of paradox, non-binary, makes people confront the inevitability of change. No one wants to do that.
And being non-binary is, of course, not just a Western thing, it's not just a white person thing, any more than it is just a young people thing. There are people who are non-binary all across the world. We are as diverse as any other demographic group, and that goes beyond just age.
My message to NBs of any age is there is nothing wrong with you. This culture really wants people to stick with that binary. And even within the trans community, there can be some pressure to fulfill being a man or being a woman, even in the trans culture. And I just want you to know, I need you to know, there is nothing wrong with you. You are loved, you are important, you don't have to choose sides, you don't have to fit into a box, you do not have to be something for someone else.
I feel like it gets easier with each passing year. Every time I have to prove to someone that I'm non-binary, every time I have to explain myself, the feeling of confidence, the feeling of assurity grows inside of me. And now I'm at the point where I can't be knocked down no matter what.
Be patient with yourself and make sure you find support from people who you can be yourself with. It's jarring to go through the day and see how many times people are oblivious to the fact that there's not just two genders. And that can be really exhausting. And it is tiring to correct people all the time. It's okay to know that you're not going to be able to do that every single time it happens. And you might even go through, several days or even weeks in which it just doesn't feel like you can do it. So like I said, be patient with yourself and make sure you can recharge with people who do know who you are, who you can just relax and be yourself with.
What I would say to you, my darling, is keep on being brave, because it's so worth it.
You are so valid, and I need you, and we all need each other, and I'm so happy you exist.
If you're a young non-binary person and you are navigating being non-binary without any, visible elders or any way of envisioning your own future as a non-binary person, just remember that there are lots of us who are older than me, who have always been fighting for this, who have always been in need of this terminology that is now being developed. You are not alone.
Every person who is in a position to be out and non-binary, I thank you. I find comfort and empowerment in knowing there are many other people similar to me. And every person who is not in a position to be safely out, thank you for existing. I believe in you.
I hope you all enjoyed that. Share a story in the comments below about a 30+ non-binary role model you have, and definitely check out and support all the cool people you just met. Also, do you like my shirt? It says, "This is my LGBT." Clever, right? Puns! Link for that below. Okay, bye!
I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what to do. I guess what I'm trying to say is I really, really like